Welcome to Sonographers in the Cities, where we connect through sound with your hosts, Lynn and Giselle. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sonographers in the Cities. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Giselle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We have a very special episode for you guys. It is our first guest on Sonographers on the Cities of 2023. And we have Ashley here. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley. How are you?
I'm good. Lynn, how are you?
I'm good. Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this episode.
Thank you. I'm really happy to finally meet you guys virtually. We've spoken many times via Instagram. I actually met you that way because we were going to go to the same school together. And then I ended up talking to Giselle because I was going to go to Vegas. And, that's how we started talking. And then you guys started talking. So then now it's like all three of us are finally talking together.
It's a full circle.
Yes.
Yeah.
A triangle, if you will.
Oh, right. Triangle.
But it really is full circle, though, because I do remember Ashley in the very, very, very beginning of her journey. She actually on Instagram is Sonography Student _journey. If you guys want to go follow her, but I do remember her a long time ago when she was first thinking about ultrasound, and she was very open and we conversated a lot, and I knew her story. And so I'm just happy that she's in her program. She's got a lot to update you guys on, especially if you guys have never spoken to her before. But she truly has gone through a lot, and I think now she's ready to share her story. So today we're just excited to hear what you want to share.
Yeah, well, my name is Ashley, and I am technically a second-year student. I'm in an 18-month program. I go to New York Medical Training Center, and it's a very accelerated program. It's like super fast pace. Like each class is basically maybe a month or shorter, depending on the class. And you sit through all of your classes first for the first year. And then after that, it's just straight up internship. And ideally, they have you an internship every single day, full time. So I'm there from internship all the way from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. So I'm very tired all the time.
Lynn Lynn knows that life right now too.
Oh yes, that is my life right now, but it's a little bit better because I'm getting paid for it. But when I was in clinicals, I totally understand what you mean. So I have a question for you, because we have talked on Instagram when you were applying to my school, you were accepted, and then you had changed programs. And so let's backtrack a little and why did you choose the program that you're in? What was the deciding factor? Because I think my program was accredited and your program, I believe, is not. And that's a big conversation topic as well. And maybe you can give us some insights, and for our listeners out there, if they're looking for a non-accredited program, maybe you can give us some tips for that.
Yeah, definitely. So the main reason why I ended up going to the school was, so it was a very awkward transition for me. And Giselle knows because I talked to her a little bit about it, but basically my family were in the process of, we weren't sure if we were going to move or not. So then I ended up delaying the program. Instead of fall at Kahi, I was I'm going to go for spring. In the meantime, my mom ended up going to the doctor. She got an ultrasound done, and the lady who did her ultrasound went to my school. And, she started telling her about it, and she was just like, oh, she has a bachelor's degree. She doesn't need to spend all of that money. She could check out my school. So then I was like, okay. Because, I did a lot of the research on my own, a lot of, the things that you read online say it has to be KHAP accreditation and all of this stuff, but it doesn't really have to be, depending on your situation. So if you, let's say, are like me and you want to make a career change and you have a bachelor's degree, you don't have to go down that route. You can go to another school. My school is technically accredited, but it's like Council of Occupational Education, and then the Board of Education of New York or whatever. But it's very like circumstantial. The school is pretty much made for people that have an education. They're coming in, and all they need to do based on ARDMS qualifications, they need to have this degree, they need to pass their physics class, then they need to pass their SBI, then they finish with clinicals, then you can sit for ARDMS for your registries. But yeah, like no one really knows that because no one really talks about it. So it's like, it was awkward for me, like in the beginning, because I didn't really know. I had lots of questions. I was scared even whenever I first decided to join the school, because I was like, oh man, I was like, I'm leaving Tahi. I'm like, I could always, rejoin, but like with this school, they're kind of based on rotation. So they kind of do things like month to month basis, like literally you can go in at any time. So I actually started the program December 2nd, which was my mom's birthday. And it was like really like just spur of the moment. Like within a month, I was in the school and I was getting ready to start. And it was just like crazy for me because Kahi was like, like, hey, like, are you officially going to sign like the last document and then like start the program? And I was just like, nope. And then they ended up calling me, and then I was like, I'm going somewhere else. And yeah, it was this whole thing. But I ended up finding out like once I was in it that it was fine. But I had to go to the school and talk to the director, and I was just like, you know what? This might not be the best circumstance, like the best school in the world, but it's going to get me where I want to go, and it's going to get me there fast. Like as long as you have like that focused mindset, it doesn't really matter what program you go into, as long as you do your research and then after that just kind of study your butt off. Because one thing with accelerated programs is if you're not focused, you might as well not even do it, because it's crazy. It's crazy. It's too much.
Yeah. And it's an 18-month program, so it is fast and accelerated. And I really love that we have you on here because you can be an example and an advocate for people who are looking for that route as well. Because obviously not everyone has the opportunity to go to an accredited school. And they're, like we said, you always have to do your research. So for you specifically, you did a lot of research, which is very good. And I know a lot of people who were posting about, people who've gone to non-accredited schools didn't know that after the fact. So they didn't know what they got themselves into. So they were mad at themselves or mad at the school, but half the time it's people who didn't know already or didn't do their research. So I'm glad that you did your research. And actually the one thing I wanted to applaud you for too was, I tell people all the time, if you can talk to someone who went to that school, that's your best bet. That's like pure example. Someone who came from that school, someone who can vouch for that school and say, hey, I went to the school and look at me now. And so I'm glad that you met somebody or you knew someone who went to that school as well.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, I was like, let me make sure that it's a school that's like, even though it's not like the official like KHAP accreditation, it's like, okay, it's still a little accredited, but let me make sure I can get a job with this. And then whenever my mom found that lady, and then I started like contacting different people, and then, the sonography community, especially on the internet, is so tiny. I ended up meeting different people, and some people that actually did go to the school graduated some years ago, or maybe graduated like a couple of years ago or a year ago, and were getting jobs and stuff and had no issues. So I was like, okay, good. I
Yeah.
was like, as long as I could sit for my boards, I don't care. Plus, I mean, the good thing with my school right now is that they are cheaper. Like Kahi is kind of expensive. It's like what, like 50,000 or 60,000.
60.
Yeah. And mine is 30. So,
Yeah.
that could also help somebody who's kind of in a bit of like a financial situation that they're kind of like, I don't know. Because even if you're paying for it on your own, it's cheap enough. Like, because they do like payment plan, it's cheap enough that you're like, okay, I can deal with this. And then also, I mean, what else do they have that could help? I mean, they night classes, weekend. So it's like, they have a lot more of like, okay, we can work with you type of, situation. But at the same time, like I said, it's really up to you as a student that's like really gonna get in those books and study and make study groups and stuff like that. Because if not, then you're just gonna sit there and you're gonna blame the teacher for like not teaching you enough. Because a lot of these teachers, unfortunately, they just sit in front of PowerPoints and then they just read off the PowerPoint. Luckily, my teacher was very passionate and he just kind of like really got into it. But still, it was like you had to study extra hard or else you weren't going to succeed. And that was basically what I learned from the program was like, this is really hard, guys. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Lynn, did you have a
So,
follow-up for that?
yes, I have a perfect follow-up. What was or has been the most challenging part of your program so far?
Ooh, the most challenging part of physics. Trying to do physics in a month. That was really hard. That was
Yeah.
really hard. The way that I went about it and a couple of my classmates that followed suit, we started studying beforehand. So like maybe a couple of months beforehand, we got our hands on the green book and then we started reading through it. And then there's, oh my goodness, I forget her name, DMS instructors on YouTube. Like I was just like, you know what, I'm going to sit in front of this. And if I understand some stuff, great. And if I don't, also, that's perfectly fine. At least I got like exposure to it. I'm like, that's fine before the class. I got some exposure, but it was good. I mean, like one thing that I realized, which I didn't even know was going to be a thing, was that vascular actually helped me a lot with physics. I was just like, oh, okay. So when I finally got to those chapters, I was like, oh, I know how to do this. This is fine. But Doppler is hard. I mean, definitely whenever I went into the SBI, it was like Doppler and lateral and axial resolution. And that was like all over my stuff. I was like, okay. All over my test. There you go. But that was, I think, the hardest part of my program. And then just having some people in the program care more than others. Like whenever we went to abdomen, it was like, okay, some people want to eat. And then all of a sudden it's like everybody is like dealing with people that are gassy because they don't listen about being NPO. And then we're having to scan each other and it's just like, oh, it's not working. Like I can't see that pancreas. Like I really can't see it anymore because of all the gas. But that was probably the hardest part, like just, not working with each other sometimes, and definitely the physics.
I can definitely relate on that abdomen labs scanning on each other because multiple times I had a tough time learning abdomen initially because my lab partners were either there was a lot of gas
Mm-hmm.
or they don't care about NPO and they were eating as I was scanning.
Oh, as you were scanning?
Yes.
Oh, that's bad.
Yes. So like basically most of the first quarter of learning abdomen, it was very tough for me because I couldn't see anything. So I had no guidance of where to scan.
Yeah.
So I totally relate how that could be challenging for you. What was the best
Yeah.
part? What was the best part of your program?
The best part, I mean, it's kind of what I'm doing now, which is OBGYN. That was the best part for me. And it's funny because it ended up being the first class that I had was OB.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I started with OB. It's weird because my class is based on rotation. So I ended up coming in during OB, and then my last class ended up being GYN. Yeah, don't tell me how that works. I mean, I just do stuff by like a weird clock, like it's weird. But I knew from like the moment getting in there, I'm like, this is hard, but I really liked it. And yeah, I've been passionate about it ever since. It's kind of funny because like that's what my first rotation has been, and that's what my second rotation is actually going to be. I found out today that, I started in a hospital and now I'm going to get a clinic experience to see the differences there. But I was just like, OBGYN is what I want to do. When I look up jobs, this is what I look up, like this is what I want, like I don't care about anything else.
So you're
Mm.
sit for your OBGYN boards first.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I mean, right now I have the SBI. I mean, that was the only way that I could go to clinical.
Mhm.
So the only thing that I'm focusing now is studying for my registry, my OBGYN registry, which I'm excited about.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I love that you love OBGYN and that you realize that you like it. A lot of people don't also realize that they have to learn everything else to
Yeah.
become an OBGYN sonographer. And did you know that before going in? That you would like babies maybe or no?
Mm, well, I mean, my original journey, taking it back
Mhm.
without giving you so much crazy detail. But I basically went to college initially to get my bachelor's degree in child psychology. So I always knew that I liked children, but I thought that I was probably going to work with adolescents more than anything. And then I ended up working in a school, became a teacher for like close to 3 years, and was just kind of like working with little kids. I learned that I just love the little kids, from 0 to like 4, almost 5 years old. That was like my bracket, and just working with their parents and the study planning and all of that. But when it came to the administration, I was like, no. And the thing is, I was just like, I won't be a teacher forever. That was never the plan. But I wanted to learn how it felt to be in a school. And that setting just did not work for me. So then I just was thinking, I was like, what is something else that I'm interested in that I like? And then I was just like, I like I didn't even know it was called sonography at the time. I was just like, I like ultrasound. I was like, because believe it or not, like going to my GYN and then like having the transvaginal and then just kind of like seeing them do stuff on the screen, like it interests me. Like that's where the interest started and came from. Like I was just like, what is she doing on there? And then I started doing some research, and then I was just like, okay, this is an option. And then I'm obsessed with bones and teeth too. So then I was just like, okay, maybe dental hygiene. I looked into a few things first. And then when I kind of realized, okay, this is probably the better avenue for me, that's ultimately whenever I chose sonography, because it's 2 years. Most programs are about 2 years. And my mom and my dad, they were pushing me to go get a master's degree for like the longest time. And I was just like, okay, so the longest I'm willing to spend in school is another 2 years, because I've already spent close to 5 years, worth in school, 4 years, and some change, however long. So I was just like, let me see. And then I ended up was like, okay, I'm gonna go down that route. Found Kahi first, found the program that I'm in now. So yeah. And then, well, actually, no, it was LIU, Long Island University, which is a bachelor's degree program. I wasn't sure what would be better. I was like, maybe I could get another bachelor's. Still would have been 2 years, because I looked into the school and they were like, oh, you have all of your prereqs and everything. You just need this, this, and this. And I was just like, okay. But it would have costed me a lot more extra money. I think it actually would have been more than Kahi, because I would have needed to go to a separate school to get anatomy and physiology, regular physics, and then ultrasound physics, and then something else there. It was like it was almost like a semester worth of classes. And I was just like, oh, it's not worth it. And then, they were telling me, oh, it's a wait list, there's no like guarantee that you'll get into the program, even if you pass the classes and all this other stuff. So I was just like, oh my God. So yeah. So
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, yeah, I was all over the place at first,
No,
trying to figure out where to go.
I love that you shared your story because we always ask why our guests chose sonography or ended up in sonography. So that was perfect. But I'm glad that, life brought you to where you are today. And, in your journey, after the fact, are you planning on, working out there in an OBGYN, like you were wanting to look for a clinic setting? Or, do you think hospital would be the one that you'd want to do?
Okay, so after my experience recently, because right now I'm in a hospital and I kind of realized, well, it's MFM. So
Ah,
what I realized is like it's very much the reason why I originally wanted to go into a clinic was because of the hours, right? But
mhm.
I didn't know that you could work in a hospital and have those same hours. So I'm actually more open to the idea of being in a hospital because one, it's better money, just saying. And two, it's
That's
just like
true.
I will still get the hours and everything that I want. And I feel like they're more on top of it. Like they're just kind of like, okay, with the rules and the regulations and stuff like that. And I'm that person. Like I'd rather have that sort of structure than it to be like, okay, we can do whatever we want because we're private. So that's why I kind of wanted to get the experience that I'm in now and see what it's actually like to work in a clinic, because I've worked in a clinic as like an oral surgeon assistant before. And that experience was like, so, I want to see what the differences is, so right now I'm kind of leaning towards hospital just because I kind of experienced that I actually do like it. But, I might think about clinic in the future. I'm not really sure at this point, to be honest.
You still have a little bit to go, so we'll see what
Yeah.
you end up doing. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So
I
when
don't
will
know.
you be done with your program?
Um, let me see. Okay, so it's 18 months. I've done a year. It's probably like maybe another 3 months or so. So I don't know, like around like the summer.
Almost
I should
done.
be,
Oh, you're almost there.
yeah.
So
I
exciting.
I'm pretty excited. There's actually a per diem spot in the hospital that I'm currently interning at. So I'm thinking of possibly going there because I love it there. Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. The only reason why I'm leaving is because my school was like, oh, you have to try somewhere else. I was like, okay, fine.
Aw,
But, my supervisor is just like, oh, come back, come back. And then when the position opened up, she was like, oh, yeah, like definitely come back and take it. She was like encouraging me. She was like, get your registry. And as soon as you're done, text me. And then, we can start your process and stuff. And I was just like, okay.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I think I'm going to do a Giselle and I'm going to start off with per diem.
yeah, you definitely should. You'll see there's so many opportunities out there. And I love that you're already getting connections. And this is exactly an example that we want other students to see. And I'm glad that you're documenting your journey for everyone. Um, I know we could talk about ultrasound and your journey a lot longer than the 30 minutes that we have you on today, but we're excited to see where you go in your future, and we'll keep up on your posts and hopefully have you back on in the future. But
Yes.
before we go, what advice do you have for current and prospective sonography students?
My main advice is just make sure you do your research and also just work hard. This is not like easy peasy lemon squeezy like type of program like the way a lot of people think it is. It's actually very difficult. The scanning, you might be like really naturally good at just scanning. Let's say you're good at, but you need both. To graduate, you need both. So definitely work hard on your studies as well as the didactic, because, you need both to graduate. And, that knowledge is definitely going to help you. History is super important, and all that history, reading the patient's history, like it's super, super important. So like, just learn, like, expose yourself to stuff. If you have to look up what hyperechoic or hypoechoic means and anechoic, like, you're not dumb, like, for it. Like, no one knows what the hell that means. Like, whenever you first start, like, you're just like, what is that? Like, I don't get it. Like, the easiest way is to be like, okay, white, gray, black. Simplify it for yourself, and then, your life will be made so much easier. But definitely study a lot and you'll be fine.
That's such great advice. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you so much for sharing with us your journey, especially it's a very commonly asked pathway of prospective students. So thank you so much for coming on here and be our guest for this episode, Ashley.
No problem. I'm glad that I was on.
Yes. And so let them know where they can find you again.
Okay. You tell them my page, because I swear sometimes I forget.
So you can actually find her on Instagram at Sonography Student _journey. And she does document all of her stuff on there, and she's over there in New York as well, but she is not near where Lynn is. So I guess New York is a big place.
Yeah, they actually have 3 locations for the school: Manhattan,
oh, really?
Manhattan, Queens, and Garden City. So whichever one is closest to you, I guess, look into. I ended up going to Manhattan because it was easier for me at the time. I live downtown Brooklyn, so it was just easier to go. But yeah, I mean, just find whatever works for you.
Yeah. We really do enjoy your story, and we can't wait to see what happens when you graduate in the future. And yeah, just thank you so much for being on. And thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. As always, we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, SITC fam. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to rate us 5 stars on any podcast platform. Leave us a review wherever you can. And don't forget to subscribe to LL Giselle on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and find us on Facebook at Sonographers in the Cities.